Hello, you're listening to the Route 1 Show, a football podcast covering football in West Yorkshire and beyond. I'm Stephen Brown, and with me in the studio this week it's Tim Feather. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
And it's Alex Spivey. Hello, Alex.
You're right, Steve.
And coming up on the show this week, we'll be looking back at all our teams' results across the region, including Guiseley, Bradford Park Avenue, Bradford City, Huddersfield Town, Halifax Town and Leeds United. And we've also got an exclusive interview with ex-Huddersfield Town and Bradford City and current Halifax Town midfielder Jon Worthington. OK, well, I'm delighted to say that joining us on the line now is ex-Huddersfield Town and Bradford City player and a current Halifax Town player. It's Jon Worthington. Thanks very much for coming on, Jon.
Hi, how you doing?
So you spent the early part of your career at Huddersfield Town. When you look back, how was your time there?
You know, I was there started there as an 8-9-year-old boy and progressed through the ranks, like you said, and went on to captain the side for 4 years and had a promotion and a couple of playoffs and things. And so, really enjoyable time in my career, really. Yeah,
it's fantastic. And you've mentioned the playoffs there. Was the playoff final, the penalty shootout, the victory? Was that the highlight? Would you say?
I think you'd have to say that was the highlight for me playing for the actual team. The other highlight was obviously, would it be my local team? Getting the honour of captaining the side, for a few years, something that I really relished and really enjoyed.
It's interesting that you mentioned about captaining the side. What changes when you become a captain of a team? How does that impact how other people view you in the dressing room?
I don't know. I mean, at the time, I was still very young. I was only 21 when Peter Jackson made me captain. I think it was, it's an honour, and I think obviously the manager gave me that responsibility at a young age, just because I think I had the respect of my other teammates, and I wouldn't say at that stage I was massively vocal, but I tried to lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned Peter Jackson there, who he had success under. What was it that made him a success at Huddersfield at that time? What were some of his strengths?
Well, I mean, when Peter Jackson came in, obviously it was his second spell as manager. When he came in, the squad was very much depleted. I think there was myself and a number of young lads, Nathan Clark and John Stead and a few others at the time, with very little experience. The only real experience in there was Andy Booth, and I think what happened is Peter Jackson came in with great enthusiasm and desire and passion, really, and I think that just transmitted through to the players, and he ended up bringing in some other experienced players to have a real mix of youth and experience to make a combination that was resulted in a really successful first season.
And in terms of leaving Huddersfield, how did that impact yourself? What were your thoughts in terms of when it came time to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously very disappointed at the time. Lee Clark was the man. I've obviously played under a few managers since Peter Jackson, and Lee Clark was the manager at the time. And at the end of the day, it is football, and managers and people have different opinions. At the time, I just felt, I think I was suspended at the time, and when Lee Clark came out, I never played under him. So I just felt a little bit hard done by at the time, and obviously been there for such a long time, it was disappointing, but that's football, and you move on, and that's what I've had to do.
Now, you were only there for a short time, but how did you find your time at Bradford City? I mean, it was a difficult time when you joined. It was a bit of a transitional period. How did you find that whole experience?
Yeah, well, like I say, it was another local team, and Peter Taylor took me there, and I think at the time it was more of a stopgap for Bradford. I think they had a few injuries in midfield, and so I just went there initially just for the month, and it was a bit of a difficult stage in my career. I'd been at Oldham, I'd just been out the previous season, out for the whole year after I needed my ankle reconstructing. So I was desperate to go there, with it being another local team, and looking forward to playing there. But when I got there, obviously my fitness was, I was short of match fitness, having not played much in the last year. So from that point of view, I was always struggling to hit my top form, and I was just kind of hoping really that I would, I could have stayed a little bit longer to recapture a bit more of that match fitness to show really what I was about. But like again, it was a transitional period at Bradford at the time, and there was a lot of chopping and changing. So I left Bradford, and it was nothing personal. And again, you move on.
Absolutely. And in terms of Peter Taylor now, I mean, he's kind of a legend of the game. He's been around England under 21s and managed teams at the top end of the game. How did you find playing under Peter? What was he like to work under?
It was okay. He was a little bit different to what I'd kind of expected as a manager. Having seen that, obviously he managed at the very top level. But I think again, it was a difficult time for everyone involved at Bradford, and Peter Taylor had his ideas and philosophies, and for whatever reason, it just didn't quite happen for Bradford at that time.
Sure, no, absolutely. Now you're currently at Halifax. How do you find that experience in the Conference Premier? They're doing quite well.
Yeah, doing really well. I mean, I'm injured at the minute. I'm just on my way back from injury. I'm just back in training this last week or so. So I'm, itching to get back involved. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it at Halifax. Got a great manager in Neil Aspin who's done fantastic over the last few years in getting the team back through the leagues. And there's a good chairman there, and together it's a real family club, and it's got a real nice atmosphere. And I think it's a club that's definitely going places at the minute.
Brilliant. And in terms of your own personal goals, what are your plans for the future?
I'm not getting any younger, so I'm kind of in preparation for when I do finish. I do think that I've still got a few seasons left, hopefully, and but at the minute I'm halfway through a physiotherapy degree, which I'm doing at Salford University. So that's the kind of avenue I'm going down. But I also run a soccer academy in and around the Kirklees and Bradford area for children 6 to 12-year-old, and so I'm working closely with a lot of young boys and girls at the minute.
Fantastic. What's the name of the academy there?
It's a BW Pro Soccer Academy.
Great. So people can Google it, can they, and find out about that? Yeah,
there's we've got a website, www.bwproSocceracademy.co.uk, and it's a company that I've set up with an ex Bradford City player actually, Paul Bolland, and we run that company together, and like I say, we do some coaching from Queensbury School on a Friday evening, and we also do some at Murfield as well. And so I really enjoy it. It's nice to, especially to give them back, because we're both local. It's nice to, get involved with and coaching some of the young lads, boys and girls, like I said, in and around the area.
Fantastic, John. Really appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
Right, well, I'm delighted to say now joining us on the line is the Yorkshire Evening Post chief football writer covering Leeds United. It's Phil here. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Steve.
Thanks for coming on. So we have to talk about the game against Newcastle. Disappointing result, but McDermott sticking to his principles. He played a lot of youngsters last night, including Moa and Polion. How did you see the game?
The right result, I think, on the balance of play. I don't think they played at all badly, Leeds, and were really undone by two moments of real precision from Newcastle. One quality cross and header, which I know you could pick fault with the defending and the marking of Cisse inside the box, but equally it was real sort of one-touch football and a very tidy goal. And then Gouffran's strike in the second half was top draw, no chance for Paddy Kenny at all. And the final 20 minutes were pretty grim, as they were always going to be. Once that second goal went in, Leeds were passed around the field really, and Newcastle were able to play with the freedom that they hadn't really had up until that stage. But I thought for 67 minutes until Gouffran scored, the Leeds had more than enough of the game to be satisfied with how they played. And if we're going to be hypercritical, we would say again that it didn't look as if they had too many goals in them last night, which has been a complaint, right the way through the season. I think it's a little bit difficult and a bit disingenuous to make that judgment too deeply or too severely on the basis of a game against Newcastle. But clearly it has been a problem before, and it still remains really one of the issues that needs to be sorted out to really get this season going. But I think considering they'd lost three out of 4 league games, to go to Newcastle and play like that and to stay in the game and give themselves a chance, I think they probably came away feeling better than they might have felt before the game kicked off. Yeah,
it's interesting because I sensed when they lost against Burnley, there was a kind of a bit of change in the fans, maybe just a little bit of real disappointment, especially at the first half against Burnley when they got comprehensively outplayed. And I got the sense after the game there was a bit of a bit of disappointment that perhaps it's that we're really looking at a season where not much is going to happen again.
It's quite difficult to accept that, really, and to accept that is going to be the case. And McDermott has really done his best in the 5 months that he's been manager to outline that picture and to make it clear. I think he doesn't put it in these terms, but you read between the lines. I think he's trying his best to make it clear that he hasn't been able to do enough to the squad and hasn't had enough time to make the sort of overnight change that would have been needed for Leeds to have been really prominent contenders this season. And that's not to say that they won't be in the mix for the top 6 and they can't hang around, but the division is moving really, really quickly up the top. And there was this feeling that it was going to be very even again, it was going to be very open, but actually there are a few big hitters who've got moving early on, QPR and Leicester, Watford, Forest. They haven't lost ground and they're in the pack and well on the way to 20 points already. And if you're going to stay in touch, that's a concern because you need to match their results. And if Leeds are a team who aren't scoring goals, then it is going to be difficult for them. And to be honest, the first half against Burnley was a bit of a throwback to the bad habits of last season. Outplayed, gave away 2 cheap goals. Much better in the second half. But the trouble when you're chasing a 2-0 deficit is that you're really just throwing the ball long and you're begging for anything you can get at that stage of the game. So it wasn't a typical McDermott performance in the second half. It really was just horses for courses and a style to suit the game as it was at 2-0 down. And you're right. I mean, the mood afterwards wasn't great, and it's hard for people to say, look, this is going to be a season of consolidation because that so often seems to be the way at Leeds. They are. Since they've got to the Championship, isn't it? It seems to have been season after season. It is year after year in this division at the moment. And all I would say is that I do think over time, and with the right level of support and the right amount of money, I think McDermott will do good things here. But he has a 3-year contract, and I do think that he might need the bulk of that, if not all of it, to get Leeds out of the division. And certainly he's going to need more than the transfer window he's just had, possibly another one in January and another one next summer. The squad hasn't changed enough, and it isn't perfect in the areas that he'd like it to be. It is still weak. So we're going to have a bit more of that this season. I think it is going to be up and down, and I don't think there are many people out there, McDermott included, who would have said that the playoffs were nailed on this season. And I think the games like the game against Burnley really do sort of underline that. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a couple of interesting stories that have come out from the club last couple of days. That'll be interesting to see what your take on them is. David Bentley, there was talk about loan. I know McDermott's kind of poo-pooed it. And also, reading the official White's Twitter feed here, Leeds linked with a ludicrously rich Saudi who's looking to invest in Leeds. What do you make of these couple of stories that have come out? Well, if I start with the Saudi, I can't vouch for that. I don't know whether that's accurate, and it wouldn't be the first the first rumour or link like that. I have asked around. I haven't had anything positive back about it, but to be truthful, I haven't had any rejections of that story either. So, frankly, I don't know whether that's the case. All you know is that for as long as GFH Capital are here and in possession of shares, I think they will be open to and interested in approaches from anybody who wants to buy a shareholder in a stake and wants to invest in the club. So you should never say never to these things, but at the moment that story doesn't seem to have any legs. David Bentley, I mean, he pretty much dismissed that on Tuesday, McDermott, and I was pleased by that, really, because I know Bentley's history, and I know that he was once a £1 million player, and he was once a big talent at Blackburn and Tottenham. But he's been without a club for since the summer. No one else has seen fit to buy him yet. And I saw him play for Blackburn against Leeds last season, and without singling him out, because Blackburn as a whole were poor, he'd have as well not played. He contributed very little to that game, and I didn't see anything in him that day that suggested he could add anything to the squad. Yeah, he's a wide player and so on, but he seems like someone who's very much had his day, even though he is still quite young. And My own personal view is that a signing like David Bentley is contrary to everything that McDermott's preaching. Which is, planning for the long term, players who are really there to make a difference. He talks about looking into players' eyes and seeing if they've got the right attitude, the right outlook that he has. He also talks about trying to bring in players who increase the value of the squad. And I don't see that David Bentley does any of that. And Leeds could have signed him and he could have been sensational. But I think the smarter money was on him coming in, not really making an impact, and us saying again, like previous deals, pick one out there like Andy Faye, who they signed, who had a good time at Stoke but was without a club. Ultimately, just might not have happened, and it would have been another player on the wage bill who you're paying money for not an awful lot in return. Absolutely.
And finally, game against Millwall coming up. How do you see that one going there, Phil?
50-50 match again. I wouldn't. Every game so far has had a single goal that Leeds have been involved in. Has had a single goal between the teams, and I could see that going on for another 20 or 30 matches. I just think that in general, the way the Championship plays out is so tight and so competitive. And these matches at the Den, it'll be interesting to see how Millwall play under Steve Lomas, because one thing that Kenny Jackett was very, very good at with Millwall, and not just against Leeds, I thought his record at Millwall generally was excellent, and I still don't really understand why they went their separate ways. I thought he was good for that club, but he was excellent at getting Millwall prepared tactically, but also emotionally for the Leeds games. They always handled those matches extremely well, and I've been to the New Den a lot of times. I've only seen a couple of Leeds wins down there, and more often than not, you've gone expecting very little from those matches. So I think the odd goal will separate it. Millwall, true to form, have come into a little bit of form just in time for Leeds coming, which always seems to happen as well. But I think if Leeds play well, they've got every chance down there, I really do. But I have a feeling that Steve Lomas will probably be spreading the same message around the Den as well. So, one goal between them. I'd like to think Leeds will win down there. I think it would be difficult to call, though.
Now, Leeds United lost 2-1 to Burnley at home. There's a few celebrations in the studio here, not for myself. Now, Tim, against Reading, Leeds played well. They lost, and they could have easily won that game, but they lost midweek last week. But against Burnley, it was a bad performance, especially first half. McDermott himself admitted that they got absolutely steamrolled, and although it was a fighting spirit they showed in the second half was good, you can't afford to make bad, sloppy starts like they did against a team like Burnley who are flying.
No, when you're playing a team who are pushing for the promotion places, which Burnley probably are trying to do themselves, trying to be a bit of the underdogs kind of going in there. You've got to come out of the blocks firing, really, especially when you're at home in front of Elland Road fans. You've got to come out and try and prove something. But they just didn't, did they? I mean, they had the late fight back. There was a late goal by Matt Smith.
They created a few chances, but it wasn't enough, was it? When you start so poorly and you're 2 goals behind, it's just...
Well, I did say last week, I said the problem Leeds is that they haven't got any goal scorers and there's no one scoring goals. And then you looked at the past results with Burnley and they've got goals coming all over the team. And I said that Leeds would have to score a few if they were going to win, and they came up short with just a 1, didn't they?
Alex, we mentioned it with Huddersfield about it could go either way, relegation, playoffs, mid-table obscurity. Leeds, the danger's there as well. Like I said, against Reading there was kind of, even though they lost, there was optimism in the way they played, but against Burnley it was just a bad first half performance that cost them. And you don't get many chances in the Championship. It's unforgiving, isn't it, if you get on a slippery slope. How far off are Leeds from being playoff contenders?
Yeah, I think they are a couple of players short. I'd put them alongside Huddersfield really for about mid-table on paper. But likewise, they have got a good manager. I think that they need a couple of wingers and another striker maybe. It's
just a rare commodity, isn't it? There's rumours about Becchio going on loan, who finds himself on the scrap heap at Norwich. Possibly he could come back. He knows the club and that kind of thing. That could work. It
wouldn't take long to fit in, really, would it?
No. Wingers though, they're so hard. I mean, where do you get wingers from without paying money? Leeds clearly don't have any money.
No. You tend to look at Premier League teams who, for players outside the 25 man squad that they've named. There's plenty of big clubs that have youngsters. Birmingham loaned Jesse Lingard from Man United, and he scored 4 at the weekend. Nick Powell from Man United scored for Wigan at the weekend. So if you can't go out there and buy players, then you need to loan a couple.
Tim McDermott doesn't like a loan, though. He's not keen on the loan philosophy that the players aren't committed and that kind of thing. But is he going to have to kind of get over that if Leeds are going to do anything this season?
I'm not sure, because I personally, I'm not one of them who thinks that a loan player can really come in and lift you to promotion or playoffs or anything like that. I don't think it's often that happens. I mean, you saw it last year with Wilfred Zaha, but he was bought from Crystal Palace by Man U and then loaned back. But I think that Brian McDermott, he's got a good few contacts. But yeah, they just need them few players, don't they? I mean, there was an interview with Brian McDermott the other week in which he said Leeds are difficult to beat. So I don't think anything lower than mid-table is disrespectful to them. They just need that, maybe just to settle. He's only been in the job 5 months, hasn't he? So he really needs to make that team his own.
Well, I mean, JFH, the owners of Leeds, they've said that it's 2-3 years plan, and that's it. But in the world of modern football, do you get 2 to 3 years? A club like Leeds, I
think that's the difficulty, the expectation at Leeds. We've named Burnley, Blackpool, Hull that have got promoted in recent years, who haven't had the best teams. But with Leeds, you just... The expectation hinders them sometimes. Yeah. And like I say, with the squad they've got, I don't think they are good enough to get promoted this season.
Especially when you have a financial history like Leeds. I mean, we as City fans, we know that, again, with the financial thing, you don't want your club to go in and just absolutely spend crazy, like some Championship clubs are actually starting to do, and it's starting to get a bit dangerous for some of these clubs.
Do you know, it's a really good point. It's really funny, because it's amazing how Leeds, they've probably had the biggest financial crash of an English team, and a drop that certainly the most kind of famous anyway. But there are fans, Tim, you see them on Twitter. Leeds fans will come out and go, "Why isn't the money being spent?" But really, it's that reason that we can't afford to have the club crippled again. Can we?
You can, and it's just ludicrous when fans think, "Oh, spend money, spend, because that's the problem that all these clubs got into. Sheffield Wednesday got into it, Crystal Palace got into it. I mean, I know to go down a few divisions, but you look at Darlington and look what happened to them. Portsmouth, they've had a massive financial crash, and they find themselves in League Two. And a lot of that is to do with like the minus 10 points and all of that.
Administration and all those kind of...
one of the ways to go about it is to bring young players in and obviously sell them on for big profit. Peterborough do it really well.
Crew have done that as well, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Stay money.
But Leeds in recent years, the best players, I don't seem to have got an awful lot for them.
No,
they let Beckford leave on a free.
Becchio, we don't even know what the fee was. If Becchio was a swap for Steve Morrison, then it's the rip-off of the century. The guy played 3 games and 2 goals and injured, and then he's off at Millwall. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The problem is, as a Leeds fan, is you think back to the O'Leary years, you think back to even Howard Wilkinson and being in the Premiership, the top flight. We still feel, this is the bizarre thing, you still have that feeling of we are a Premiership team. Now, other fans from other teams might say we're deluded, but we still feel that we are a Premiership team. But in the next 2 seasons, we're going to have been out of the Premier League longer than we were in it.
There's plenty of teams in the Championship that are in the same boat as Leeds, who are typically mid-table, and realistically they've no hopes of going up this season.
Well, a team like Sheffield Wednesday, like when I grew up, Sheffield Wednesday were a Premiership team, and a good Premiership team. I still think of Sheffield Wednesday as having Premiership potential, but I mean,
they've probably less money than Leeds now.
Same with Portsmouth as well. I mean, they've managed to just balance the ship a little bit. But no pun there, by the way. They did manage to balance the ship a little bit. But
if you look at teams like Ipswich, Coventry, Nottingham Forest, who you tend to think as Premier League clubs, as well as Leeds, have all been out of it for nearly 10 years now.
FIFA 97, Coventry were on it, weren't they?
FIFA 97, Gordon Strachan manager, I remember that. So Leeds playing Millwall, the next game, Millwall, one of the teams you've mentioned, Alex, that are kind of middle of the road, could go either way. I mean, if I had to, as a Leeds fan, I'm hoping for 3 points, but I'd have to see it as a draw. Not a good game either, Tim.
No, I'm probably going to go for a draw as well. Both teams. Well, saying that, Millwall have managed to score a few goals, haven't they? But again, I think if they have won, they've won by the odd goal, apart from the win against Blackpool, which I think you can probably say is a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably go for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think there? Is that a game you just wouldn't want to watch?
I think it's a really...
I'm a Leeds fan and I'm struggling to find a reason to watch that.
I think it's a bad time to play Millwall, to be honest. They beat top of the league at home and then they went to the local rivals away and beat them.
Yeah.
And
it's a funny old league.
They'll always be up for the Leeds match, Millwall.
It's a funny old league, isn't it? I mean, you see a team like Derby, who thumped Millwall a couple of games ago, and then they've taken some hammerings. It's fascinating, isn't it, with the Championship, how topsy-turvy it's become these last couple of years.
It's just become a bottleneck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just teams who have Premier League potential, but they just don't get through, and I think that's starting to actually come down into League One now. You've now got League One teams who could technically be Championship teams, but because it's the calibre of clubs in the Championship is so high, and it's starting to actually become its own. I mean, even foreign investors and stuff are starting to invest heavily in the Championship.
They're really
now,
close together, a lot of the Championship teams.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
OK, so joining me in the studio now is our Bradford City correspondent. It's Pete Chapman. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Stephen.
So you've been up to speak to the manager and players. Must have been a good mood after the victory against Gillingham, the first away win of the season.
Yeah, I think when Parky was very pleased with the away win, and he said, they're only 3-4 games in, but you don't want that sort of, we haven't won away going on 6, 7, 8, because then it starts to become a millstone. They've got it off their backs that they've won, and they've won. I think what he's most pleased about is the style in which they won. They took the game to Gillingham, and they should really have scored more goals. And when it's only 1-0, you're always at risk of someone breaking away and sticking the equaliser in. So.
Absolutely, and in terms of getting that monkey off your back, the away win, I suppose they will have harder tests away from home, though, in the rest of the season.
Oh, I think so. I mean, you look at the league table, and there's teams down the bottom half, like Bristol City, Sheffield United, Coventry, of course, with the points deduction. You're going to say they're not going to be there all season.
Yeah. In terms of people who haven't maybe seen Bradford City play this year, what kind of style are they treating the fans? So obviously they've been banging in the goals at home, but is it an attractive attacking football that's been laid out, kind of following on from last year?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a very attractive style of football. I mean, it's not. I mean, you're not going to get Barcelona, Spain type thing, but there is still a somewhat of a reliance on Hansen. But whereas 2 seasons ago, particularly, I was just hoofing it up to Hansen, and there was no one around him. Now he's a better player anyway, but he's bringing it down. And Naki Wells is there, Gary Jones is there, the wingers are there. Be ever with Mark Yates, Carl Reid, whoever, and there's definitely a good progression, and the fullbacks and Meredith and Derby are pushing forward well as well. So.
Yeah. There's been a bit of talk about maybe a lack of depth, particularly up front, if the front two, one of them gets injured or suspended. What options are there for City at the moment?
The only other two really are Alan Connell and I've forgotten his name.
I know you mean, and I can't.
Andy Gray.
Andy Gray, yes.
Yeah, and
who hasn't played a lot of football.
Yeah, he broke his elbow at Guiseley in the pre-season friendly. But when he came, it was Parkinson was quite open that part of the deal was he was going to help coach Hansen, and you can see that. You can see the effect it's had. Connell, I think he's a fantastic player, but he does come across as one of those that's much more effective coming off the bench than he is starting a game.
He's not developed to that point where he can impact from the start. And next it's Shrewsbury. How do we see that one going, Pete?
Well, they're a better team than I think that their league form has said. But then again, they've lost one, won one, drawn the rest. So, I mean, the key thing, as Parky said today, that they're very hard to break down. They will form 2 banks of 4 and say, right, come on, get through us if you can. And he said he's been to see a lot of their matches or seen a lot on DVD, and they seem to do a lot on field positions in training because they know exactly where everyone's supposed to be at any given time. Yeah.
If you had to call it, then which way do you see it going?
It wouldn't surprise me if it's another draw, but I'd like to think Bradford could win.
OK, so we're going to look at League One now. Bradford City continuing very solid form. Good win against, has to be said, a poor Gillingham team. Nothing special, but it breaks the away duck, Tim. They've gone away from home and they've got the 3 points.
Yeah, they have, yeah. I think Parkinson said that they should have probably won a little bit more than what they did. But it's good to get that first away win under your belt, because it can, things like that, they can start to get into the psyche of the players a little bit, can't they? And it can start to affect the way they perform at home. But a respectable result at Gillingham, to be perfectly honest, where last year we lost on the first day of the season. So, yeah.
Alex, good win against Gillingham. I suppose any away win is, so it doesn't matter who the opposition is, it's always going to be difficult with the fans and things. But Bradford City possibly showing another side that they haven't shown thus far, being able to go away and have a resolve about them, although it was against Gillingham, who were not done spectacularly, but you have to build. Yeah,
I think the early goal helped. We defended really well for the rest of the game. But it was a close game. We had a couple of chances to kill the game, but likewise, they missed a sitter at 1-0. If that goes in, they could have easily gone on to get another, just through the confidence and momentum of the game.
This is because you're both Bradford City fans and season ticket holders. Who's been the standout player so far this season? You can look at Naki's goals, but is there someone else that's driving this team forward for you, Tim?
Davis. But just the way that he's been commanding in central defence, it's just, you sometimes see some of the, there's been points during the season where I've seen some frailties in the City defence, but Davis just seems like he's just always there to try and clear it up, a bit like you'd probably see Colaccini at Newcastle, that kind of just clearing it up. I think just the other week he took out his own player, so I think he took out Nathan Doyle.
So was he in danger of scoring an own goal or something?
No, he'll do anything just to get the ball. He'll take on Doyle.
Alex, do you agree with that, or is there someone else that that's caught your eye this season for City?
Yeah, Davis has been great. I think it helps that the whole at the moment the starting 11's all played with each other for the last year or two. I think a few of them have just got better and upped the game since coming up a league. I think Nathan Doyle's looked a lot better than last season. Gary Thompson's now a permanent fixture in the team. Kyle Reid's, I'm not his biggest fan at all, but last few games he's put good shifts in. I think the whole team just knows each other so well that everyone knows what the job is in the team, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. I mean, there's some, I picked out Davis as a standout player for me, but they've all upped it another level. I mean,
even the fullbacks, they have. Yeah, they defend well, but they both get forward. And
someone who I was a bit thinking may struggle a bit this year was Gary Jones, but he's just picked up and left, because I was thinking he's advancing years, it's up another level, but we missed him against Hartlepool when we lost, and I think it was Martin Allen this week who actually said, if it wasn't for Bradford City's goals through Naki Wells, and we wouldn't be doing as well as we are. But it's a team effort, it's not just Naki. I mean, you saw Sheffield United try and cut Naki Wells off by just marking Hansen out of the game, but he still managed to score. So
it's an interesting one. It's because obviously they've had to make the step up from League 2 to League 1, and it appears that it's just been a smooth transition. What's driving this? Is it just the talent of the players, or is it Parkinson? I mean, what do we say about the manager now? I mean, this is a guy who's led you to 2 Wembley spots. Does he get enough praise, or I mean, surely he's the driving force behind all this?
Definitely. I think a number of people, if we lost, everything could go wrong, including the manager. Even if you took Wells or Hansen out of the team, we would struggle. I just think it's down to...
Because we talked about lack of depth, didn't we, before? If the players up front get injured, there's not much left, is there?
Could be an issue, but I think just last season as well, we've just got a settled, confident team who all get on, and it's really important.
If, for example, Tim, you're in 6th position now, Bradford City are in 6th position now. If they're in 6th in January, what can the club do to push forward to the players? Is the money there, maybe from the cup run last year, or higher gate receipts? What can the club do if they're sat in 6th in January to make that push?
Well, I think they've kept some money back. I think they've always done that. Tried to keep a little bit of money back, so if they need to strengthen in January, they can do. But I don't think there's much that they'd need to do, really. I mean, we don't have the distraction, of 2 cups this year. We might have the FA Cup, hopefully, but maybe it could. I don't think we need to strengthen as much.
No.
It could do with maybe another goal scorer if Naki, Wells and Hansen get injured. We might need a goal scorer, but saying that, we don't know. Apparently Gray has been Parkinson's still a big fan of Gray and thinking that he's coming through. I know some fans are a bit against him, but
be a massive risk to disrupt what we've got. I think the last few signings have all been good players, but if you don't want to disrupt the team, but likewise, if we get good players, I don't want to sit on the bench either.
Actually, I've got a bit of an issue with this idea that you're out of the cups, so you've got more time to focus on the league. I don't know if that actually works, to be honest, because last season, I remember hearing Parkinson himself say that the fact that they got a couple of injuries, they had these extra games to play, but it meant that an entire squad got played, so you had less unhappiness. Is that a factor, Alex, this year that's going to come about? Are there going to be players that aren't playing regularly, aren't going to get the game time that got last year because simply City aren't in as many games, that are going to be less happy?
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to touch on. The players we've brought in recently, you think of Nelson, Taylor, and now people like Yates. If they're not getting in the team, they're not going to be stuck on the bench.
But that's going to negatively affect City. I mean, I'll ask you the same question as Tim. If Bradford City in 6th in January, what happens? Can that club go out and sign someone that's going to get you the playoffs? I think he'll add to the squad, but I don't see how he can add anybody to go straight into the first 11 when this team has been winning consistently for a good 18 months. It'd be more strengthening more than anything. Say, if there's a player that's injured and we need someone. But you look at Matt Taylor, he's gone out on loan to Colchester now to fill in some of their gaps. Kennedy, he played against Huddersfield and played against Hartlepool. Every new player is brought in since January has not got in the team. Yates doesn't seem to have done as much since he scored that goal against Carlisle. Really. Well, I'll ask you this then. Everybody's happy with the season, but if you could pick one area to improve, where would it be, Tim? My fear is still up front with the goals. So you're saying lack of depth behind Naki and Hansen? Yeah, because I know Connell's got it in him. It's just he needs time to develop it, and if either of them two get injured, Wells or Hansen, because I don't think Wells is the same player when Hansen isn't on the pitch. That's my personal opinion. But I think we need someone in there who can still score goals. Alex, same question. Where can City improve? Where would you be going if they, obviously we have to talk realistic here, but a realistic signing or a position where they need that little bit more? Where can you improve on this? Well, it's difficult to criticise at the moment, but I think if I had one criticism of the team, just the amount of crosses we get in the box and the amount of times we go wide. There's only ever the front two in the box, and even then, sometimes Wells is out wide. So that's not could do with a goal scoring midfielder. Is that a goal scoring midfielder? Or is that tactics? Is that comes from Parkinson? Should that be? No, that is part of the tactics. You can't argue with what's happened and the record has got. We have scored more goals this year from midfield, so like last year we didn't score as many goals from midfield. We're really picking here, aren't we? This is complete nitpicking. This is just the fear. Like for example, I'm clearly a depressed Leeds fan trying to, I've got the same fear if Meredith gets injured, because then we're stuck with Carl McHugh at the back, who's a good, he's a good player, but he's not a left back. All in all, though, this is a good period to be a City fan. Oh, it is. It is. It's a golden period, isn't it? We won't rub it in. Enjoy Championship. See you next season. See you next season. Right, looking at the Conference Premier, Halifax Town sitting very pretty indeed in 7th place. A solid draw against Hereford, although some might have expected another victory after thumping Grimsby 4-0. Tim, Halifax Town, they're going pretty decent. I mean, they're competing with teams in that division that have professional full-time training and facilities, but they're holding their own, aren't they? They're doing okay, Halifax, aren't they? They're doing better than okay. Yeah, well, we mentioned it earlier
in other podcasts as well, that they're actually performing above expectations. I mean, you would possibly think that maybe in the conference, a team like Halifax should really be consolidating, not challenging for those playoff places like they are doing. But I did say, like last week, Hereford, they are one of them teams who, when they're on a bit of a rubbish run and you play them, they can do anything against you. But it's they've had a good set of results. They haven't had any losses in the past 5 before midweek, so you've not had a bad set of results there.
Not a bad set of results. Halifax Town, I mean, we got to speak to their old player, Jon Worthington, tonight. It was interesting to hear. Well, he's still at the club. I'm not going to include that on the podcast. Absolute disaster.
I thought you said own player, to be honest. Did you say old player?
I said old player.
I thought you said own player.
I don't even know where I was going with that one. Okay, so Alex, we heard from current Halifax Town player. He said he's injured at the moment. Jon Worthington, looking to get back in the team there. But he mentioned himself about the atmosphere at Halifax Town. It's a really nice club to be part of, isn't it? It's really good values, traditional club. Going in the right direction. The manager, everybody doing really fantastic at the moment.
Yeah, they're on the up at the moment. They've got the momentum. As Worthington said, they've got a great manager in charge at the moment who's doing all the right things. And as Tim said, they're unbeaten in half a dozen games now, and yeah, it's looking good for them.
Absolutely. So, obviously, a big game at the weekend against Chester. Chester ran away with the Conference North last year, really struggling. 21st place, -9 goal difference, Tim. It's not really worked for Chester, has it, this season? Something's gone wrong.
No, I mean, you look at the result that Halifax got against Grimsby, which was 4-0, and then you look at the result that Chester had at home as well, and that was only a 0-0 draw.
Yeah,
I mean, you're obviously taking out Grimsby of that equation, but you got to say that maybe.
How rubbish are Grimsby, by the way?
I don't know. I don't think they're too bad. I mean, they got a couple of ex-City players there, and they got to FA.
Oh, well, they're definitely rubbish then if they got ex-City.
Well, they got to FA Vars Trophy last year, didn't they?
Right.
They did lose against Wrexham.
Right.
No, well, you see Chester, they've got to try and... They need a win from somewhere, don't they? Hopefully it won't be against Halifax.
Yeah, Alex, can you see Chester getting anything from Halifax, really?
I can, actually, yeah. They've got a lot of ex-league players and a lot of experience in the team. And I think it will be a really hard game for Halifax, but hopefully they can continue the good form.
So, predictions there, how do you see that one, Tim?
I'm going to go 2-1 Halifax, I think.
Alex?
I fancy Chester to stop Halifax's run, unfortunately.
Is that a draw or is that a loss for Halifax?
I think Chester might beat them.
Right, so let's have a look at the Conference North, and we're going to start with Guiseley. So it was another difficult day for Guiseley. It's the 4th loss on the trot against Hensford. It's not been a great start for Mark Bauer. Can he be blamed, Tim, or was it just the wrong time to get rid of Kittrick? Is it becoming more and more clear that the club made a big mistake? If they got rid of Kittrick, they should have done it in the summer.
Well, you look at it and it's a bit of a difficult situation for Guiseley, really. I mean, you look at the past 5 results and they've got 4 losses and 1 draw, but 2 of those results, the draw and the loss, was under Kittrick. It's difficult for any manager to come in to those 3 games of Boston United, Derby with Park Avenue, and then Hensford. But maybe it was a bit too early. Maybe they should have just tried to see if they could get through that rocky patch there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex, Hensford, top of the league in the Conference North and absolutely flying. Nobody really expected Guiseley to get anything from the game. Having said that, they've been playing well under Bauer, really. I mean, we had a couple of tweets to the Route 1 show, and Adam Bridson, for example, he said they played well, but they were just lacking the goals at the moment in time, and they desperately need to sign another striker. They're lacking that bit of firepower. Is it just a really difficult moment for a new manager to come in so early in the season with the expectation that Guiseley fans have? I mean, they seem to be. The general feeling I get is that they seem to be behind Bauer. Yeah. I mean, also Michael Glossop on Twitter, he got in touch with and said that they played really well. They just need to start turning performances into points, really. But that's the hardest thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Matt Bauer's coming at a really difficult time. they've achieved a lot in the last few years, but as we say, they've cut back this season, and he's struggling. But it's his first job, and it's going to be hard for him. But I went to the Guiseley Bradford game in pre-season. You've just stated everything I thought of that game.
Lack of striker, lack of focal point, firepower.
Because normally they give us a good game pre-season, but I think that's the poorest Guiseley side I've seen last few years. So it just needs a bit. It's encouraging that they've played well in his first few games. It just needs a result, and I'm sure they'll be playing a few easier teams in the future.
It's early to say, Tim, but Guiseley in 16th position. There's no chance of them actually dropping out of the division, is there? I mean, is that a ridiculous thing to even pose at this point, or is this how it can happen? Kind of, negative momentum can build up, and suddenly you find yourself in a relegation scrap.
Well, it is a really early point in the season to be looking at that. Yeah. But they have. It's
apologies, Guiseley fans. I'm not trying to be negative, by the way.
Well, it is a league where it's been very apparent in the first couple of weeks where everybody's been beating everybody, but apparently, Guiseley fans and even Bauer said that they were unlucky not to have won the Park Avenue game. There was a controversial red card, depending on what side of the fence you sit on there. And in the first half on Saturday against Hensford, it was 0-0, and it took Hensford until it took them till the second half to score the first goal, and then they got the second, and I think that had just kind of taken the wind out of the sails. But they've got a big derby again this Saturday in the FA Cup. The FA Cup's a bit of a chance to relax a little bit from the league, and maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Alex. I mean, FA Cup tie against local rivals Bradford Park Avenue, who've turned the form about, and we'll be discussing Bradford Park Avenue shortly. Guys are coming into an FA Cup game. Is it a good distraction, or do you think Matt Bauer would be looking to get a win under his belt in the league before the distraction of an FA Cup tie, or is it a good opportunity?
No, I think. Like Tim says, it's a good chance, maybe to try new things out. You don't want the pressure of the league where you drop in positions and going near the relegation zone. So I think it's a good chance to get revenge on a team that they know well and they've played recently.
Outplayed many people. Many people have said, didn't they, that they outplayed Park Avenue in that last game there.
Could be a bit of a grudge match.
Yeah.
No, I think if they do lose, they've not lost any points, and they can go into the league and start again. Right.
Well, we'll look at Bradford Park Avenue now. Then, Tim, they've really turned the season around. There was Chris Bell, who we'll be speaking to later. Hopefully, this is edit point. We might not even speak to Chris. He basically thought there was a potential when Kitterick got sacked at Guiseley. Park Avenue weren't doing too well themselves. There was a chance John Deasy could have been sacked at Park Avenue. You look at that point to now, they're unbeaten for a number of games. They've won the last 3 out of 4 games. It's really turned round for Park Avenue this season, hasn't it?
It really has, especially the games that have been led up. Like you look at last weekend's 2-2 draw against Solihull.
That's a good result, isn't it, Tim?
They are the surprise package of the league this year. They're sitting in third in the Skrill North. Then to have won 2-0 at Guiseley, admittedly, again, like we said earlier,
possibly, yeah.
John Deasy said that's the worst Park Avenue played all season. But to be perfectly honest, if you get the win, who cares? You've got the 3 points on the board. 3-1 against Telford. That's quite an emphatic win, to be perfectly honest. And then the first win against Worcester as well. So that's a good set of 4 results.
Scoring goals hasn't been a problem for them, has it, really?
No, well, at the beginning of the season, I think we were all saying that it's defensive. The problem was.
I mean, speaking to one of the Park Avenue fans, Phil Hesse, who we're hoping to get on the show, at some point in the future, he said he's a lifelong Park Avenue fan, Alex, and he said that Oxford City game 3-3, they nearly walked out at half-time when they were 3-0 down, but they turned it around to make it 3-3 in the end. Obviously, confidence is growing with Park Avenue now. How do you see that game going in Park Avenue in general?
Well, they're on a good unbeaten run. As you say, I think it's the defence more than anything. They've scored 12 in the last 5 games. Yet they're still on -1 goal difference. So
that says a lot, doesn't it, about the start of the season? So if we had to say a result, how do we see that one going, Tim?
I think Guiseley might win that one. I think they might get the first win under the belt. I think it'll be a different set of circumstances with it being on the Saturday afternoon in the FA Cup. I think they might get it.
They might get it. Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt Bauer's team as well. I think there'll be quite a few goals, but I fancy him to win it by the odd goal.
Right, so we'll move on to the Championship now, and Huddersfield, decent result against Blackburn. It's another 0-0 draw for Town. Town playing well, fans happy with their style of football. Where do you see the season going so far? I mean, 9th position, it's not bad, they're going okay. Mark Robbins is doing a good job. He does good wherever he goes, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I think he'll lift Huddersfield to probably the highest finish in quite a long time, to be honest. I fancy a mid-table. I don't think they're quite playoff positions yet. I think there's bigger teams in the Championship. But, you know, they've got some really good results behind them. I mean, to win Charlton 2-1, to go to Ewood Park and just draw 0-0. Yeah. I mean, I think there's some really good results there. Thump Bournemouth 5-1,
yeah. Alex, Huddersfield season so far, if you were a Town fan, would you be happy with what's going on at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're doing better than everyone thought they would do. I think the worry is if anything happened to James Vaughan, they may struggle, but it's got them playing in a way that suits them and they're getting results. James
Vaughan, it's amazing that another club didn't come in and poach him, isn't it, really? I mean, I know that's the opinion of a lot of people, but you can't believe it, can you, with the performances he's been putting on and leading that line for Huddersfield?
Yeah, he has. He's been scoring some fantastic goals as well, hasn't he? I mean, Huddersfield have had quite a lot of goals from all around the pitch, but particularly Vaughan. I think there were some issues with his injuries or something, and I think Huddersfield have taken a bit of a risk on him, haven't they? And it's worked out a treat, really.
Well, I mean, obviously the big problem for Huddersfield, Alex, was Jordan Rhodes. How do you replace a player who scored 40 goals for you and that kind of thing? But I mean, I suppose it's not particularly worked out for Rhodes at Blackburn. He's knocking the goals in, but Blackburn aren't doing anything particular. But Huddersfield, they've adapted, haven't they? They've changed. I mean, they had that period with Grayson, but it didn't work out. They've got Robbins in now, and in Vaughan they seem to have found someone else who can take them forward, can't they?
Yeah, I think they have changed the style a bit. I think they started playing 3 at the back now. And as I say, if something did happen to Vaughan, then you do think where the goals had come from. But right now, they're playing well and they're getting results.
Do you think Huddersfield are like a lot of Championship teams, and I suppose most of the leagues in general? They could go either way. They could have a good few games and be threatening to get in the playoffs, and then a few games later looking like relegation candidates. There's still that danger, isn't there, in the Championship?
There is, yeah. I mean, you look at Blackpool a couple of seasons ago, no one expected them to get in the playoffs. Everyone was saying they were overachieving, and then they ended up getting promoted. But with Huddersfield, they could go either way. I mean, it's easy to say right now they're doing fantastic, but when you start getting a run of results which are a bit of a struggle, you know.
Which is what happened to Grayson, wasn't it? You know,
it
suddenly,
is, yeah.
You know, that the negative momentum again, wasn't it, Alex, that got Grayson out?
Yeah, I think they do have a stronger squad now than under Grayson. Like Tim said, I think mid-table, I'd be massively surprised if they got promoted. Likewise, I can't see them being near the bottom either.
No, and you mentioned before, Tim, Blackpool. Okay, not great last couple of games, but before that, looking strong. Sat in 4th position, they've managed to keep hold of Tom Ince. Difficult one for Huddersfield, that really, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. You look at, especially when Blackpool will after a loss and a draw in the past 2 games, they're probably going to want a point to prove, really, aren't they? And I think that, especially losing 3-1 away to Millwall and then 2-2 at Leicester, possibly. You could probably argue that's quite a good result.
Yeah, the Leicester in good form.
I think Huddersfield will be firmly in the crosshairs of Paul Ince's side, to be perfectly honest. But Huddersfield have surprised people before.
How do you see it going then, if you have to pick a winner out of that one?
I think Huddersfield will scrape out a draw on that one.
I think Huddersfield get a draw. Alex, how do you see that one going, Huddersfield-Blackpool?
Yeah, I fancy Huddersfield, actually.
You think that?
Yeah, I think Blackpool started really well, but I don't think they are a top 6 team, and I think this could be the start of a poor run for Blackpool. So Huddersfield are strong at home. I think they'll beat them.
Right, okay, we're going to look at the Premiership games coming up this weekend, and there's a cracker on the early kick-off on Saturday. It's Spurs versus Chelsea. Tim, we'll start with Spurs. They're the home team. They got a last gasp win against Cardiff. They've got more variety than they did last year. They were heavily reliant on Bale, obviously, and this season they had a few different scorers. Are Spurs genuine contenders for, well, more than just the Champions League places? Are they title contenders?
I don't think they're title contenders just yet. I think there needs to be a bit more gelling before all that happens. But the top four have all been squabbling amongst themselves, taking points off each other, haven't they? So it might be one of them seasons where someone like Spurs might be able to just jump up and get them extra points.
For the league, wouldn't it?
It would if they were
had a new winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think it's in dire need. Chelsea, it was supposed to be a terrible week, and then they beat Fulham, and they're right back in it, aren't they?
Yeah, I think he mentioned it. Jose still not sure of what his best 11 is. But going back to Tottenham, I do think they're short of a striker or two.
Do you think so?
For a full season, it's not scored apart from a penalty in the Premier League.
True, yeah, I understand what you mean, but if look what happened with Man United when Van Persie's out. I mean, can you use that same?
They've still got Rooney, Hernandez, Welbeck. Tottenham have.
They still have Defoe.
He wasn't even on the bench at the weekend, though, was it?
No, he seems to be out of favour, and he's made some complaints, hasn't he, as well? On the other news, Ericsson, who they signed, he looks class act, doesn't he, that guy?
He's fantastic, isn't he? He's did it come from Bundesliga, didn't he? Or
no, Ajax.
Was it Ajax? Oh, well, he's come from a league which we can probably argue isn't as good as the Premier League, but he's just hit the ground running, really, hasn't he? He's fantastic. I mean, I think it came out last night that he could have gone to Man City as well, and he said that he didn't want to.
Oh, yes, Mancini wouldn't make the trip or something, would he? He was on his holidays or something.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, he's worked hard. So how do we see that going? Tottenham, Chelsea, it's at Spurs. How do you see that one going, Tim?
I think it's either going to be a really, really boring 0-0, 1-1, or it's going to be an absolute thriller where it's going to be 4-3 or something like that. Just because you've seen Arsenal games in the past there at Spurs. I mean, I know it's a bit different, but it's still a London derby. There has, they can be quite high scoring down at the White Hart Lane, can't they?
Mourinho doesn't like flamboyance or excitement, does he, at all? Really. Do you think he's going to kill it?
I think it does depend how he approaches it. Well, they're pretty similar. They both got flooded with good midfield players, but it's just up front. Maybe the defences will handle the strikers, and the midfield
they'll be able to.
Etu needs a goal, doesn't he? I mean,
do you think? I mean, I said last week that I thought Etu's just a terrible signing. I mean, what do you think? I mean, when you see Lukaku getting the winner for Everton, and Etu just looks lost, doesn't he?
Well, I think he needs a bit of time to just get into it a little bit, but it's one of them where. Has he signed the name rather than the player? Has he signed his reputation that he had at
and he had a
Milan
previous response. He had a previous relationship.
He's worked with him before.
Yeah, he's worked with him before.
Yeah, he worked with him at Inter, didn't he? Yeah. But has he signed him because of his reputation?
Yeah. Rather
than what his actual skills are. But he needed a goal scorer, and maybe just went to someone he could trust.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, it's Aston Villa versus Man City. Let's have a look at that one. Well, let's start with Man City. Fantastic win against Manchester United in the derby, fully deserved.
As predicted
by Alex, right?
Cheers for that.
I don't think I gave a prediction, did I? So, Pellegrini, is he starting to gel, or is it, I mean, you look at the quality of Man City and your Agueros, and even Nasri looked better than he has for a while. Is that strength in depth going to show that quality? £100 million spent, whereas you look at Manchester United and that money hasn't been spent. Is that the difference? Or?
Well, I think Man City needs to start doing it against the teams at the bottom of the table now. They've proved they can beat the big teams, but if they're going to Stoke and Cardiff and not winning games, then they won't win the league.
Yeah. Man City, Tim, what do you think early signs? Pellegrini's been a bit indifferent start. Obviously, fantastic win against Manchester United, but have you seen enough so far, or does it just take time for the Pellegrini project to get off the ground?
I think it is going to take a bit of time for it to settle in, because like I said, I've said it every week, he's come from La Liga, he needs to get used to it. Playing teams like Man United, playing in the Champions League, then big games, it's easy to get up for them, but it's like in La Liga you don't quite have those games where it's a tough one like Stoke and Cardiff, who were the bruisers, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I still think that Man City, if I was to pick a weakness anywhere on their team, it'd still be the defence, because if Vincent Kompany wasn't there yesterday, it could have been a completely different game. Because, I mean, Vincent Kompany just dominated Rooney, didn't he? I mean, he said that he was looking forward to playing against him while he was in his form. And if Robin Van Persie were on the pitch, I mean, how different would the game have gone there? But I completely agree that they need to start winning the smaller teams. Probably starting against someone like Aston Villa, maybe that's a good stepping stone for them to.
It's a good start to go, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Fulham, Cardiff. Fulham, I mean, they were on the receiving end of Chelsea's 2-0 victory. Cardiff, they've got a lot of spirit, they've got a lot of fight. They've tried to hang in there against Spurs, and they nearly did it, and in fact they could have nicked a winner at the end. How do you see that one going? Is that just going to be a dogfight, a typical Premiership dogfight?
Yeah, I think that'll be a really close game. Both sides, I think Fulham need a win more than Cardiff. And at home, I think they'll expect to win, but I don't know. I think that game might suit Cardiff, where they can defend and maybe hit them on the counter attack.
Fulham, Cardiff. How do you see that one going, Tim?
I'm going to have to go against Alex, even though he was right for pretty much everyone last week. I'm going to have to go against him just because Cardiff struggled when he went to West Ham, didn't they? And it could be one of them where Cardiff are trying to pick all the points up at home and not and try and just consolidate away from home. But I agree, Fulham need the win, and Martin Yole really needs to put a fire up Fulham to get them ready, get them
going there indeed. Hull City versus West Ham. West Ham, they took Everton all the way. They were on the receiving end of two great Leighton Baines free kicks. Hull, they were on the positive side of a 3-2 win, a fantastic win against Newcastle at St James's Park. How do you see this one going?
Well, I think this is the sort of game where the informed team will probably lose this, and Allardyce will scrape a result out of somewhere. But Hull actually have some really good players on paper. And they've got a couple of decent results recently, so there's no reason why they can't beat West Ham at home.
Is this a typical Bruce thing? He gets a championship team up, they have a good first year, maybe even the first 2 years, and then probably they'll all go horribly wrong.
It's what happens after that, isn't it? I mean, I know the owner there has big ambitions, but it's all about trying to keeping them rooted on the ground there. I fancy Hull City for that one, I really do. I think that
at home as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they scored 3 good goals against Newcastle. They weren't just like scraped a 1-0 win at St James's and then they beat them 3-2 and Newcastle were ahead twice. So I fancy Hull City for that one, I think.
Manchester United versus West Brom. Alex Moyes, he complained about the fixture list, but they've got West Brom on Saturday. 3 points is an absolute must. I mean, there can be no other result than 3 points in that, can there, for Moyes? Otherwise, what happens then?
No, it's a must-win for United. I said it last week before the Man City derby, but I just don't think the squad's that good anymore.
The midfield. If you're playing Ryan Giggs, it's still playing Ryan Giggs. What does that say about your team?
Well. They've got
Bobby Charlton?
Nani.
Where's Bobby Charlton? Can we get Bobby Charlton on the pitch?
Get Scholes back again as well.
Yeah.
Well, just out wide, I think Valencia's the best of a bad bunch, and then Nani and Young haven't performed for at least 2 years now.
Ashley Young's woeful, isn't he?
And he had an absolute mare against Man City, but you think of Carrick and Fellaini in midfield. It's probably the slowest midfield two in the top half.
They wouldn't break any speed limits, those two, would they? Not at all.
It's just not what you associate Man United with.
No, Tim, what's wrong with Manchester United so far? Is it just, is Moyes right? They've got a really hard fixture list, and who else could have come in and done any better?
I do agree with Moyes. I think that you look at the list. The fixture list for the first 5-10 games, it has been a very, very tough one. And then you include the cups in there as well. They didn't have an easy game against Bayer Leverkusen either. I think that for me, the problem with Man U, it really does lie in defence. I mean, you've got Vidic and Ferdinand, who are fantastic players, but you need fantastic players who can play all the time. And I think that I think that with Vidic, fantastic when he's fully fit and playing. There's probably only, he's in the top 4 central defenders in the whole Premier League. But he's not fit all the time, is he? And same with Rio Ferdinand, he's ageing, and Andy's nursing injuries and stuff like that. I think they need to find a centre-back pairing which will work for them, and it's all about trying to work that one out. I mean, they do have a couple of youngsters in there like Smalling and Jones, don't they? But
if he dropped Rio or Vidic and they were getting poor results like this, he'd get sorted.
But don't you think as soon as Moyes said about the fixture list, it was already condemning Man United to defeat, or it was already a pre-excuse?
Definitely, yeah. I don't think he's negative, but I just think he's a bit cautious, and he doesn't seem to have the confidence you'd expect from a top manager.
When you look back at it, Tim, the appointment of Moyes, what did he do to warrant this job as one of the top clubs in the world? He hadn't won anything at Everton for 10 years. He'd not even got an FA Cup winners' medal or a League Cup winners' medal. Yes, he might fit the mould in terms of his work ethic, but what success had he got? How could Man United, a top club like that, ever employ someone like him?
I think it's more who he knew. I mean, he didn't. Yeah. I mean, he did have quite a good friendship with Ferguson, didn't he? Yeah. And Ferguson did say he had a lot of input onto who he thought should get the job. But Moyes he created a good Everton team for 10 years, so he's got the stability. He's created a good Everton team on a budget as well. Man United are not one of them teams like others around Europe who will throw £80 million at a player. They won't do that. They won't pay over the odds for a player, which is probably why they missed out on a couple of players in the transfer window. I mean, personally, I think it's the right way to go about it, which is you don't throw £30 million at a player. I mean, I know they've spent 27 or whatever it were on Fellaini.
You prefer to see home?
I prefer to see teams who would rather say no to the. I'm against modern football. I'm against
I absolutely agree with Tim in the fact that you look at that Man City team. Oh, isn't it brilliant Aguero knocking in goals, and isn't it brilliant Silva and this? Where's the homegrown talent? Where are the players that the Manchester City fans can identify with?
But I think it comes back to the Wenger and Arsenal argument.
Yeah,
if you're that stubborn and you're happy to let all your rivals sign these better players, you're not going to win anything.
Yeah, I suppose, like you've mentioned there, Tim, it's the modern game, it's the way it is, and I suppose Manchester United have taken a very old-fashioned step in approaching someone who's going to offer stability and work ethic and longevity. But is that just not the modern game? I
still think the defence. I mean, you mentioned Valencia yesterday, Alex, but Patrice Evra was awful as well. Yeah. He were up and down park, and I think it was on the the third goal. Vincent Kompany sprinted up the full length of the pitch. Vincent Kompany outpaced Evra. Evra was just jogging back, and there was a point where Rio Ferdinand was playing left back. Yeah, and that's because Evra had pushed himself so far up the pitch. And you look at all the goals; they came from crosses through the box.
Is this season does it just kind of confirm that Ferguson was just a masterstroke to actually get that team to win league titles?
Last season with a similar squad,
it's incredible, is it? When you look at it, yeah, absolutely. But if Van Persie had been injured last season, what would Manchester United done then? But
could you argue that it's not Moyes' team, though, it's Ferguson's team? I mean, that's like trying to maybe jump in someone else's car and drive as fast as, I mean, I know it's stupid, but putting in Formula 1 standards, taking Sebastian Vettel and putting him in a McLaren, would he still be as good as he is? No, because it's not his car. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe that's what
the sport is.
Maybe Moyes needs a season to just put a stamp on the team and go, right, this is my team. But it's still Ferguson's team majorly.
Yeah, but can Manchester United can Man United afford to finish outside the Champions League places, for example?
I think that's a possibility.
But can you imagine him keeping his job if that happened? Because a lot is said about Ferguson. It took him 6 years to win league title at Manchester United. There's no way Moyes will get anywhere near that, is there? In the modern day context, a club like Manchester United, there's just no way, is there?
I don't think they'd wait that. If it was looking in doubt,
is it? Yeah.
This isn't the worst start to the season they've had, though. The worst start to the season they had was under Alex Ferguson, and I think that was like 2002, 2003. So it is still early days, and they have got They've got 3 out of the top 4 done at the moment, which is Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City.
So performances as well. Against Palace, they didn't score until Palace got a man sent off and gave them a penalty. The Champions League game, 3 of the 4 goals were either offside or complete errors by the opposition. You mentioned him before, Eriksen for Tottenham. He was, what was he, 11 million?
Yeah.
21 years old.
I mean, why on earth didn't Manchester United go in for someone like Eriksen?
So it's not always 40 million that you need to spend.
Is that just what is that? Is that bad scouting? Is that just lack of awareness? I mean, someone like Villas-Boas, you get the feeling he's got his finger on the pulse. He knows the players. I mean,
they did all the research for Jose Mourinho on teams, didn't they? So he will have a very good bank of. He'll have a good knowledge of players, but
Moyes.
Yeah, I think we're now starting to realise
spending money. I think
we're realising with Man U how important David Gill was. I mean, I know he was just the.
Is it like the David Dean thing at Arsenal? It's that kind of you need someone to go out there. You need someone with a checkbook to go. Let's just take a punt and get this player and just spend the money.
Just wheel and deal and get it.
The amount of players who were linked to it crazy. Every time you read that they'd had an offer rejected, some new player came up. And it was like they didn't have a plan of who they actually wanted. They just wanted to buy somebody.
Fabregas and then Herrera.
Was that just out of desperation, though? Was that just out of desperation from Man U fans and media around Manchester that Man United needed to do something?
Well, there was even a rumour that they'd put a late bid in for Bale, wasn't there, of something silly like 110 million or something. Whether that's true or not, I can't imagine it, but who knows? So that's the problems of Manchester United. One final thing I will say on Manchester United is they've dominated the Premier League pretty much for the last, since its inception. Is that over now? Is this the end? No,
I don't think it's the end. I think it's just a new start, and it'll take a while for them to get going, but I think they will still be able to do it.
Man United, is this the end, or is it
I wouldn't say permanently the end, but I don't think they'll win the league.
But Liverpool,
gradually just decline.
Gradually decline. Is that possible at Man United?
And I think it's bad that it's not just Chelsea and Man City, but Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool are all improving.
Yeah.
And I just can't see Moyes turning it around so much that they are going to be competing with the title.
No, exactly. Okay, Southampton versus Crystal Palace. Southampton, they stopped the second unbeaten team, Liverpool. Cracking win at Anfield, 1-0. Good signs for Southampton this season, isn't there?
Yep, I'm going to say again, I got it wrong. I thought Liverpool were going to win that one. Alex got it right. But no, they're playing a really nice style of football as well, aren't they? And they're scoring them odd goals, which, going to Anfield and winning, that's a real coup for them.
That is, isn't it? Southampton Palace, how do you see that one going, Alex?
I expect Southampton to win that. I think Palace did add to the squad on deadline day, but
they just don't have enough, do they?
No, I think Holloway's back from his touchline ban now, which may make a difference. But I really like the Southampton team. They've got loads of pace, loads of youth in the team, but they've got physical players in the right areas as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Swansea versus Arsenal. Swansea, fantastic week for them. They beat the aforementioned Palace 2-0, and they also won against Valencia away in the Europa Cup. It was a bit of an indifferent start for Swansea. Obviously, they had a brilliant season last year, winning the first trophy. It was always going to be the difficult second season for Laudrup, but things are starting to click into place, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they did have a tough run of games at the beginning of the season, didn't they? But the Swansea.
We actually thought Moyes was good, didn't we? When Swansea won 4,
they did.
When Man United beat Swansea 4-1.
I mean, you look at Swansea Arsenal game. That's going to be a really pretty football game, isn't it? It's going to be Saturday. That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's just art, isn't it?
Yeah.
Arsenal, Alex, 3-1 winners against Stoke. I mean, it's unbelievable, is it? From that opening day against Aston Villa when they lost.
2 informed teams.
And they signed Ozil and everything's right in the world. They're looking better than they have for a while. I mean, they've only lost 2 in 20-odd games. I mean, everything's looking rosy. Are Arsenal actually challengers for the title this season, do you think?
I'd have said so if they'd have signed another striker.
Yeah.
But like we said with Tottenham, I just think they're short up front, and for a long season, I don't think you can scrape through with just one decent striker.
Bar Man United with Van Persie last year.
I can't work it out. I mean, you've got at the beginning of the season, you asked us who we thought were going to be the Championship contenders, and we all went Man City, Chelsea, possibly Man U if they get their act together, and depending on who they sign. But now Man City are struggling to win teams like Stoke and Cardiff. Yeah. Chelsea are in disarray because they don't know who the first 11 are. You've got Man United who have had a tough run of results, and Moyes, some people don't think that he's up to the job. And then you've got Arsenal who have got Mesut Ozil, who are, they're looking positive, but possibly still a couple of players off. And then you look at Liverpool, who, again, you're not too sure about which way they're going to go. And then Tottenham. I mean, you've got about 6 teams there.
Are we looking at the best Premier League for a while?
Due to losing Ferguson, Mancini, and obviously Moyes leaving as well, I think it's just the most unpredictable.
It's great, isn't it? Is that great?
It's quite refreshing.
I'm complimenting. I'm just I'm saying there. Like, I only said 3 teams to be near the title, but I think you're looking at about 6 now because they're all taking points off each other. And with like Man City, Chelsea, and Man U, the top 3, all Man City taking points off Man U, and Man U and Chelsea only drawing. I think that does leave it open for someone like Arsenal to maybe just sneaking in there and just get it.
And do it. They could do it. Elsewhere on Sunday, Stoke versus Norwich. Stoke, obviously they were on the what the fuck did Stoke do? They lost, didn't they?
They played well.
Arsenal. Right, I'll do that. I'll put the link again. Elsewhere, Stoke versus Norwich. Stoke on the receiving end of that 3-1 loss against Arsenal. I'm not concerned about Stoke. I think Stoke have shown promise in certain areas, but Norwich, it's disappointing, isn't it? With the money spent and the players brought in and the players already there, it doesn't seem to be going quite to plan, does it?
No, I expected them to push on, really. I know they ended up finishing 11th on the last day, but they did add to the squad really well. But I must say, Stoke impressed me at Arsenal. They passed it. I think they had 10% more passes than Arsenal. Wow. Second half.
Yeah, and it was all kind of set around set pieces, wasn't it? Arsenal's goals as well, ironic.
But Stoke totally changed the play now, and they're looking to pass the ball and keep it on the ground. I think that might be a better game than would have expected last year or two.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I hope they're not advertising that as Super Sunday, because that's not.
No, that'll be the BT game. I
was going to say that's Sunday football, that, isn't it? I'd rather watch Coventry Brentford.
Stoke versus Norwich, Tim. Where do you see that one going then?
I agree with Alex watching Arsenal and Stoke the other day. Stoke did look really, really good, and they didn't just like hoof football and stuff like that. They did play some pretty football, but it's all right playing pretty football, but if it's not getting you the results,
the thing about Mark Hughes is he kind of is not very popular because of he walked out on Fulham when I think he thought he had a chance at the Chelsea job or something else ridiculous like that at the time.
It was a Wales job or something, wasn't it?
I thought he wanted Fulham to spend more money, and they weren't matching his.
Lots of rumours.
Lots of rumours. It was about 7 here now. But is he a solid manager, Mark Hughes? Is he a decent manager? He can get a team going all right. I know he didn't do well at QPR, but
I think
his past record.
He was unlucky at Man City, wasn't he?
Yeah, he came in at a difficult time,
didn't he?
Yeah,
and
he was never going to.
He was starting to build something, and maybe if they'd given him time at Man City, he could be a completely different manager.
Yeah,
but I think he's a safe choice.
Yeah,
bar QPR, I don't think he's done a bad job anyway.
Solid, isn't it?
I think he bought wrong players. Man City brought in Adebayo, Robinho, but
that's what the fans and the chairman and all that at the time wanted, though.
Yeah, there was absolutely. Yeah, there was no way Mark Hughes made that decision.
Now we associate those big names with Man City, and now they can probably buy players like Nastasic, who we don't really hear of. I'd never heard of him.
No, absolutely.
We wasn't the first one on the football manager list, but
did QPR want him to sign players like Basinga and?
Yeah.
You got to say how many of them signings of QPR were Tony Fernandes and not Mark Hughes.
Absolutely. Sunderland versus Liverpool. Big news with Sunderland is Di Canio sacked. Is it stupid to let a guy... Well, first of all, pick a guy like Di Canio. You know it's unpredictable. You know he's got certain political aspects affecting his appointment. To let him change the staff to let him bring in so many players and then sack him just a few games into the season. I mean, that's...
I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't let Di Canio live in my house for a week. I wouldn't let him have full control of my house, never mind a football team.
What do you think he'd do? Only Di Canio knows. Well, he don't think...
I think Pete'd have some funny words with what Di Canio would do, wouldn't he, really?
He would.
But,
he would indeed.
No, I think... I do think it's probably a bit too early to be... I mean, you do at least giving him to Derby Day, and then you could have at least... Then the fans... But a lot of the fans were all on his back already. They were singing he'll be sacked in the morning. I mean, I know there were a couple of Albion fans that were doing that, but his thing at West Brom, I think he was just trying to... I mean, I know a lot of pundits have called him crazy for it, but I think he was just trying to, like, say, I know, don't you worry about it.
That's
I know what you think, and I agree with you. That's all I think he was doing. I don't think it was like saying, come on, tell me what you think. I think he was just stood there.
Come on then, if you think you're hard enough.
Yeah, I don't think it was any of that, which is weird for Di Canio. But I think that is... I do think it's a bit early. But saying that, when you've got managers like Gus Poyet and Roberto Di Matteo
on the wings,
who are both can speak fluent Italian, you know, they'd be able to slide straight in there. I think Di Matteo is a better manager than Di Canio, and I'd look, as much as I like Newcastle, I'd hate and not too fond of Sunderland. I would like to see Di Matteo get a good job.
Why didn't they give Di Matteo the job 6 months ago then?
But hang on though.
Well, yeah.
But hang on though. Didn't Di Canio do great at Swindon? Is that under?
Was it all set up for him though? Was it all set up with how he wanted it?
Well,
yeah. Was that his baby kind of thing? But it all ended in the same tears, didn't it?
Yeah.
So why would you?
Somebody,
like someone said on the TV this morning, they'd have had a shortlist drawn up as soon as he hired Di Canio.
I did hear the opinion though that Alex that Di Canio, well, it was always going to be like a firework. It was going to come in, it was going to do something, and then it was going to be over. It was going to end in tears. But you know, he kept Sunderland up last year. Is it just kind of you kept us up? See you later.
If that's the case. See you later before the season, not a week after it's spent all your budget. Just doesn't make sense. That's all.
So how do we see that one going then? Sunderland, well, we've got to talk about Liverpool. Liverpool, I was really willing them to get a result against whoever they played, Southampton, because I would love to see a team like Liverpool get back in there, and just the more teams fighting for the title, the better. And I was really disappointed that they played so poorly against Southampton. What happened? Was it Coutinho missing?
Maybe,
the anticipation of Suarez coming back? What?
I think they're all still gelling together a little bit, Liverpool, because they did have a big overhaul in the summer of players, Downing going out and players like that. But I mean, I said it a little bit off air. I think Liverpool have the potential to be the next big one in England, because I think that Warner, the owner Warner, is a serious man about spending money. He's done very well with the Red Sox in baseball. He's got experience of franchises, and I think that might just hold Liverpool in good stead for the modern football kind of thing.
How many more seasons can Liverpool afford to live without Champions League football before that's it, the ladder's up, and they will never be able to bridge that gap?
Well, I think with
they
the history...
still spend money though, don't they? They still spend a lot of money, don't they?
Yeah, well, with the history and reputation, I don't think they're in danger of totally dropping out, but
no.
I still think they're behind the other teams at the top in terms of squads.
What did you think though when they won the first 3 games? Was there any party that thought,
no,
this is a bit different?
I've never expected them to challenge for the title. Like I say, I still think, without mentioning Chelsea, Man U, Man City, there's still Arsenal top. I just think they're all above Liverpool at the moment.
They're just all above them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final game, this is next Monday night, Everton versus Newcastle. Everton, team, the only remaining unbeaten side in the Premiership, and when you've been able to keep hold of a player like Leighton Baines, probably because the guy himself is, down-to-earth guy and didn't cry and whinge about a transfer move.
Which he could have done,
Yeah, he could have done, couldn't he? And he didn't do what Fellaini did, and he bangs in two goals from free kicks to overcome a deficit at West Ham. It's going to stand you in good stead, isn't it? I mean, how good can this Everton team... There seems to be a lot of things that have come together, like Lukaku loan, Ross Barkley suddenly is in the fray. the Martinez style of football. There's a lot of things seem to be going in Everton's favour at the minute.
Well, I've always thought that Martinez had potential to be a good to have a good team underneath him. I think, like I said, for the top 6 teams, they might challenge Liverpool depending on how it goes later on into the season for the last Europa spot. But I fancy him for maybe an FA Cup or a League Cup. I think Martinez might try and win over Everton fans like that by, because he did come under a bit of stick at the beginning of the season.
3 draws and there were people questioning, weren't there?
Yeah, but I think that I can see Baines leaving in January. I can still see that happening because I think Man United will come in again because he's, with the way that Evra's been playing and the way Baines has been playing, I think someone will say make sure you get him, and especially with Moyes having that link there. I do think it's a wrong time for a player to move though in January. But I fear for Newcastle.
Well, Newcastle, Alex, just when you think Newcastle are getting it right and you've got these players back, suddenly they lose at home to newly promoted Hull. What is it with Newcastle?
I'm not sure. I think they do have a team where you do think they could get down very easily and lose a lot of confidence and fall out, and obviously there's Pardew, and as soon as they took the lead against Hull, it showed Kinnear and Ashley sat next to each other laughing as though there were these two geniuses, and then I didn't see them when they were 3-2 down.
Is that the problem with Newcastle, Tim? Is it? I mean, it's a massive club, is Newcastle. I fully think Newcastle could be as big as, any club in the country. Obviously, they don't have the history of, say, Arsenal, Liverpool or Manchester United.
Could be bigger than Chelsea.
They could be bigger than Chelsea. They've got a bigger fan base than Chelsea, and the amount of fans are pulling every week. What is it about that club?
They just keep messing it up, don't they? I mean, I know I've not mentioned it before, but I lived up there for 3 years, right? But the passion of the fans up there and the expectation is so high on those players. And that first season when they got promoted and they reached reached 5th. Sorry, I do believe that the Premier League was a bit of a poor year that year. I mean, we struggled in Europe and everything like that. But I just think that it's just all over the place. I mean, this Joe Kinnear thing, the French players. I'm not against them all being French or anything like that, but they're just not quality. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Loic Remy has been the best signing they've made in the past 2 years, and he's only on loan. I mean, that's the kind of play fans up there would want to see coming in and staying for a couple of years. But I mean, the Pardew talks about Ben Arthur. Ben Arthur is a good player, and he does have these moments of genius. Yeah. But when Newcastle are 2-0 down against someone like again, he's just not. He just tries and does it himself basically, and it don't work.
So basically, Newcastle are going to beat Everton, are they? That's the Premiership, isn't it? Do we all think Newcastle beat Everton?
Well, they went close last year, didn't they? I think what were it?
2-0.
Yeah, 2-0.
They will, won't they?
They'll end the unbeaten run.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope so.
Right, that's all we've got time for on the Route 1 show this week. Thanks very much for listening. You can download and subscribe for free on iTunes. And if you've got any comments, you can tweet us at the Route 1 show. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can email us at theroute1show@gmail.com. You can also read the thoughts of our contributors today on our Tumblr page as well, at the Route 1 show there as well. Thanks for listening. I've been Stephen Brown, and with me in the studio today has been Tim Feather. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And thank you, Alex.
Cheers, Steve.